What's up, and welcome to a new Lakers Theory podcast. I am Shane Jackson. Joined with me, as always, is Austin Case here on Saturday, February 12th, coming to you live right after the Lakers lost 117 to 115 to the Warriors. They have now lost three in a row. The loss itself is not that surprising. The Lakers were like 8-point underdogs going into this game. And I kind of begrudgingly turned the game on tonight, expecting the worst, because what the Lakers had shown the previous week and a half was anything but optimism, or reasons for optimism. And honestly, I thought this loss was at least fun, and that's the name of the show episode title. And surprising in a lot of ways, this team, at this stage of the season, doesn't deserve moral victories. They're 26-31. They're firmly in the play-in possibilities and maybe not even making the play-in at this point. So moral victories should not be a thing. But after what we've seen the last week or so and the trade deadline being a dud, I don't know. It was reassuring in a way to see at least a competitive loss. Who knows if the Lakers can take anything from it, but I at least had fun, a lot more fun than I expected to have. Austin, what are your initial thoughts from this game?
After the previous games, I honestly felt like they played pretty well. They're just down the stretch there. They couldn't get over the hump. It would be like a couple points, and then they would turn the ball over or they would foul and just kind of get out of rhythm a little bit. And then they finally did. And honestly, Klay Thompson just hit a couple shots, and I was like, it's over. I was like, you know what? It was just kind of that gut punch, and I was just like, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be back and forth, maybe. But I was just like, yeah, that was kind of the final blow. But I mean, overall, I don't think they look terrible. They're just some plays here and there that if you convert, it's a different ball game. Yeah, man. I don't know. LeBron played great, but what's new at this point in time? I wish AD would have been more aggressive. I know he kind of got into foul trouble there just for a little bit, but honestly, he was on a non-existent in this game. Really, he had some good plays and stuff, but I feel like maybe mostly on the offensive side of the ball, he was absent, and that's kind of where we need him to really be successful.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with this matchup, right? So there's no Draymond, and the Warriors really don't have anyone that with the size that can compete with him. And ideally, this is a matchup that he would feast in, right? But he, was 5 of 13 from the floor, scored 16 points, thought he settled for jumpers way too much. And it didn't feel like you said, he was assertive at all. And I don't know. It was tough to get too mad at him because right out of the gate, it felt like he was saving everything defensively. Like, the Lakers would run a lot of action towards his way. I thought, especially in the first quarter, AD and LeBron were easily the two best players on the floor. And they were still down what was a 6 at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
And AD was a big part of that. Like, he was playing good defensively, but again, like you mentioned, offensively, I don't think he established himself, and it's because he's settling for jumpers, and I just don't think I think we've seen enough evidence to suggest that he should stop doing that as much as he does. But yeah, no, like, this team doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt at all. We jokingly said that the new season starts today, like multiple times already, and throughout this season, just because we've won a reason to start believing in this team. But when you lose to like the G League Blazers, like they did earlier this week, you lose all reasons to have that benefit of the doubt there. But I don't know. Tonight, entering this game, there were comments from Frank Vogel suggesting that, hey, this team looked like it had different energy about them post-trade deadline. And it's one game. I didn't want to believe it at the moment. I still don't want to believe it now. But I'm excited for the possibility of that. And because you did see maybe a little bit more engagement from them. Honestly, this was just a team that I hadn't seen all year. Like it's one of the few times it felt like they actually cared to be there. And I kind of hate always using like the energy and effort as like a fallback excuse, but it did feel like they actually cared and wanted to be there. I mean, they were down 15 at one point early in the game. They clawed their way back. And it would have been really easy to just kind of give up, and they didn't. So I don't know. I don't know what I attribute that to. It's a combination of a lot of things. I thought Austin Reeves was spectacular tonight.
Yes,
I know the Warriors.
Yes, it was great.
Yeah, the Warriors down the stretch attacked him in some matchups with Steph Curry on him or whatever, and that's going to happen because honestly, like who's going to stop Steph, but let alone a guy like Austin Reeves, right? But Austin was making some plays down the stretch. And, I don't know. Russ wasn't terrible. Obviously LeBron was good. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can live with this the rest of the year. If the Lakers are bad the rest of the year, but they play like this, they're competitive. I can live with this. They'll still probably be in the playing game. They may win or lose that playing game, but I can live with losses like this for the rest of the year. I cannot live with what we saw against the Blazers literally 4 days ago. So we can't forget about that.
Yeah. Honestly, in this game particularly, the presence of Carmelo, that's a game changer. Like I don't know in what way, but he makes an imprint on this game in a way, in some sort of way. So, ideally we were missing Carmelo. It was good. Like, I don't feel upset and bummed out about this game, mainly because I finally lowered my expectations down to believing like they're going to be a lottery team. That's right. I just keep saying that. So I believe it. And then, if they're in the play-in tournament, I'm like, you know what? This isn't too bad. So, no, I was kind of disappointed that nothing happened at the trade deadline. I thought there were maybe some moves that they could have made to, maybe make the team better. Shoot, who knows? But, that comment you said that they just seem to have more energy. I could see that. There's less pressure to like every little thing might be picked at and could be used against you to trade you. And so, in that sense, I can understand why there'd be more energy. And honestly, hopefully that just changes something with the team in general. So, I don't know. The team that we saw tonight, I don't mind if this is what we get. Yeah. It'll be a lot more interesting and better to stay up late to watch.
Yeah, no one's saying the team we saw tonight is competing for a title. We are just saying it is better than the crap we've seen throughout the year. I wanted to circle back to the trade deadline discussion in a little bit, but first, obviously, to mention LeBron James becoming the all-time leading scorer in regular season and playoffs. We had to mention it because the broadcast barely did. It was bizarre how they did not talk about it until coming out of the break. I think someone had to remind them, like, "Hey, LeBron did this, and he accomplished this feat on a play that Russell Westbrook set a screen for him to hit a three from the left wing." That was shocking in itself. But no, I mean, obviously that's a big deal. And was really the main reason for watching tonight's game. I think going in, we thought, honestly, I thought we'd have a podcast talking all the way about that. But just wanted to give a couple minutes there to talk about LeBron and how awesome he is, because he's awesome. Hence why I'm wearing the Go shirt.
I was annoyed. I'm just like, he just tied it. And then I was just thinking, I kept bringing it up to you, and I'm like, maybe I'm just completely wrong about all of this. And so I was like, I got online, I was looking up like the scoring leaderboards, and I'm like, I don't think these are right, because I swear I've seen it in other spots. And so I was just like, I got on Twitter, and it was just a bunch of comments of LeBron tying it and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, okay, I'm not crazy. So this is actually happening tonight. So,
yeah.
But yeah, honestly, that's why I saw the Warriors, and I was just like, ooh, this could be bad. But I was like, I want to see LeBron beat this scoring record. So yeah, that's why I tuned in.
For sure. Okay, let's hit on some trade deadline discussion to close this podcast out. Maybe look ahead a little bit. But yeah, the Lakers did not make a move. This came after They lost the Bucks and the Blazers on back-to-back nights. They got punked by the Bucks, and then they lost the G League Blazers. And I think seeing those 2 games in a row, the front office was like, yeah, why should we give up a first-round pick 5 years from now and THT, who knows how good he'll be or whatever, for a team that probably isn't one move away. And I think that's what they ultimately decided. Because it all goes back to the summer, obviously, trading for Russ and how stupid that was. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Everyone's talked about that ad nauseum. But when they traded literally all their best assets, all their movable assets for a guy who can't be moved, expecting them to make a move at the trade deadline always felt like a pipe dream. And it really was. Like, I thought there was like a 0.05% chance they would make a move, especially around Russ. And it kind of unfolded. Austin, what did you think about the trade deadline? What were you expecting, and kind of just your disappointment on the lack of moves, I guess?
I mean, I was disappointed that they didn't move Russ. I knew realistically it was going to be very hard, mainly because nobody wants him, and that's fair. But like, I was disappointed with that, and then, I mean, honestly, that I have no idea what they could have done. Like, you kind of committed to THT versus some of the other people that could have came in, bringing him back. So, honestly, I think it would have looked bad if they shipped him out, then, because I feel like he's contributing pretty well to the team. He has off nights and stuff, but who doesn't? But I mean, honestly, if they couldn't move Russ, I don't think there's anything else they could have done. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't give up a 2027 first round pick, because honestly, we're probably going to be a bad team come that time. So, I don't know though. Like, I'm disappointed they can't move Russ. I think there's some possibilities in the off season that can happen. Obviously, if he stays, he's got a player. Russ has a player option, so he could decline that. But who's declining $47 million?
I would.
But yeah, I don't know. These are the guys that we have, so I guess we know that's not going to change. Besides maybe a new face or two here and there, but honestly, now I feel like you can just focus on finding the biggest strengths out of these guys that you have and figuring out a way to use them the best possible way. So yeah, I guess now we're just waiting to see what happens with the buyout market. And
I think that's a very good point by you. Like, now that we are post deadline, like it's all about maximizing the potential of this team, right? Like, no one's saying, I mean, allegedly they thought that this was a contender in the summer, right? And this is the same roster, but no one really believes this team is going to make a run at it. But if you can get the best version out of this team, like what that looks like, we don't know yet. But tonight was an indication, like, hey, this was the best they've looked in the half court sets in a long time. So I don't know. There's things you can do with this group that maximizes their potential. That probably is playing Russ, obviously, and hoping for the best there. But it looks like James Harden, of all people, I'm going to show this comment. The Lakers have the hardest remaining schedule in the league, which I don't think you're the real James Harden there because you have a Steelers logo. But I agree. I think the broadcast mentioned that today as well. But yeah, we talked all year about how this schedule is kind of backloaded. And honestly, it was concerning the Lakers were so bad to start the year with who they were playing against. And now that you're fighting for a play-in spot and you have the hardest remaining schedule, like that's real tough, which probably speaks to our lack of optimism after tonight's game. But I don't know. I've given up hope on really just the best possible outcome of this year. I'm just kind of hoping that more nights are more like tonight and that they are competitive and it's interesting and we have things to talk about. That's really where I'm at.
Yeah, I had to check to see because I thought they had a protected first round pick like this year and next year, but they don't. So being terrible this year is only going to benefit probably either Washington or the Pelicans. So we're kind of just yes.
James Harden says Lakers are missing the playoffs. I appreciate the comments, James Harden. Anybody can comment if they're watching the show live. We are at Lakers Theory on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Even if they are negative comments, we're okay with that because we are very negative about this team. And things aren't looking
Dude,
better
honestly,
moving ahead.
If there was a nice buyout for the Lakers to miss the playoffs, I would put money. I would hedge money that way because you never know what's going to happen. I've said multiple times they're not even going to make the playoffs. So
yeah, that is true. Lakers have the Jazz on Wednesday, the Clippers on Friday, and the Pelicans on Sunday. Those are all 3 games on ESPN. So the national stage for all 3 games. Basically, all of America gets to see how bad the Lakers are. And we will be here watching the games as well. We will go live after games when we feel like it. Probably the Wednesday game after the Jazz, though. This is my guess on our next show. And then we'll see. We'll see if the Lakers can string any of these type of performances together. I highly doubt it, but let's hope. He's Austin Case. I'm Shane Jackson. Thank you so much for listening to a very sad edition of the Lakers Theory podcast. But we'll see you next time.